Hello, everybody, and welcome to Writing Sprint Wednesdays with your host, myself, Doug Lansborough. What is it today? August 13th, 2025, and I am so glad that you can join me today. On deck, we have, as per usual, three 20-minute writing sprints with 5-minute break in between. I see we have a bump in chat going on here. Started off with Elena over an hour ago. I appreciate the dedication to getting here early, saving your spot in a place with unlimited spots. I will say before I jump into any hellos here, I did have to delete a comment in the chat. Let's just keep it PG-13 here, folks. Anything that would require a trigger warning, let's try and keep it out of the chat because we don't know who's experienced what, and we just want everyone to have a good time. Alrighty. So who do I have with me? Like I said, Elena was the first one here, and Athena was also joining quite early today. Linda, who I feel like I haven't seen in a while. So hello. NJ, hello. Let me keep scrolling here. JM Brown, awesome. JM, is it this week that you start the new job or is it next week? Let me know. Erica's here. Hello. Hanweli's here. Hello. David, hi. Let's see. Okay, excellent. And Star is here too. Hey, Star, I don't see you often in the word sprint, so that I'm glad that you could join us. Let me grab the link for everybody today. I have a little dug it, but I will save it for next week, or not next week, next break. I saw next week JM Brown responding there. So I'm glad you could join for today's sprint. And hopefully you can, once everything's settled with the new job, join us for the other events as well. The link for the first sprint is in the chat there. Down below, you'll find the links for all three of them. And in the sprint itself, in the top left, you'll find a link to the next sprint. And then in the second one, you'll find a link to the third sprint as well. We try and make it as easy as possible for you to get those words written. Let's see what else is going on. Let me know what you're working on. I've mapped out most of the book that I have in my mind. I'm tentatively calling it Nightshade, an urban fantasy about monster hunting. What else? Why else would I write an urban fantasy? And I started. I did a little bit of writing in it last week, and I did some yesterday during the first sprint before the workshop that we did at 2 p.m. yesterday. And if you didn't catch it, you can check on our channel, and I'll get the link after our sprint. Actually, I should have time now. You can go catch up on the free workshop that I hosted yesterday, all about author websites, why you need one, what you need to think about when you're making one, what it can do for you, all that jazz. Let me do a couple clicks here and here. I know some folks in the chat were with me yesterday, but I know not everyone was able to. So I can just do that, and then I can do this. It makes me think of tomatoes. Yeah, that's there are different things you can think of with the word nightshade, but yeah, that close relative to our lovely tomato, or they're in the same family. Same with eggplant, I think. And I have my vegetable garden is doing well. My cucumbers are prolific, but I have a couple eggplants coming in. I'm very excited. Underrated plant, those eggplants. I also saw that Elena has 10 cities in total for your book now after adding the beautiful city of Trieste to the saga, which is awesome. How many did you start with, Elena? Was it 7 originally? Was it 6? I can't remember what the first one was. Athena's writing a class on strategic manipulation that will be part of the book. It is absolutely fun. That is fantastic. All right, let me get my music all set up. I wish I could share my music comfortably with all of you and not get dinged for a copyright strike, but it's still something that I need to look into and keep forgetting to about sharing music during the stream. But I also know that some folks just like silence when they're writing, so I wouldn't want to force my very chill, very thematic lo-fi upon you. Erica's working on something new today, and NJ, kind of crazy that we can eat tomatoes, but the leaves of the same plant are toxic due to the nightshade thing. It is indeed. Nature is really cool. And if you're part of W Academy, today is World Building Wednesday. Once a month, we have a world building lesson over in the community at W Academy on W. They were talking about nature. I'll more about later. Our sprints. I'll see you in 20 minutes. Bye for now. All right, everyone. That is our first sprint of the day finished. Let me grab the second link and pop that in the chat before I get too excited and chatty. Let's drop that in there. Should be coming your way, but you can, as always, I'll scroll up to show you. Find it here if you're joining us live. If you're watching after and using this for accountability, unfortunately, those sprints will be expired, but you can still use the timer and the video itself to help you run some sprints. So I'm going to paste everything that I wrote there, and that was 716 words that I got written. Um, and I'll have that set up for the second sprint. Now let's check in on the chat here. Uh, NJ saying, I always wonder how people discover that. Talking about the tomato nightshade debacle, and I was thinking the same thing, right? And I'm glad that I live in a time where I don't have to guess if the thing I'm about to eat is going to kill me. Or the treat that I'm about to give my dog is going to make her really sick. Like, thank goodness for the internet and the people that came before us that figured those things out. NJ said that my voice cuts in and out during the beep, so I'll try and be mindful of that going forward. I also try to be mindful of the fact that you see me with a 6 to 8 second delay. So by the time I say it's time to sprint, you're probably already sprinting, and I'm probably already sprinting when you hear it. So a little, mishmash of stuff there. Sometimes I just get carried away. Alina says, I love talking about my books with you, and we love that you talk about your books with us. I love hearing about people's books. I've seen a couple of comments recently about how sprints or workshops or courses or the community are the reasons that people were able to finally finish their book or finally self-publish or start querying agents or get an agent. And it fills me with so much joy. It is such a fulfilling part of this job. I love that I get to talk writing all day. I love that I get to do things associated with this art that I love, but that part of it, oh, it's so cool. So I'm always glad when people talk about their books here. David got 359 and Elena 100, Athena 592, and Welly 277. SK, hi SK, 399. Linda got 710 and NJ 400-ish, still timelining, and Erica 127. That is fantastic. Great job, everybody. I said I had dug it for you, and I've been rambling for so long already that we only have 2 minutes 20 seconds left. So here is my dug it for you today. And this comes from one of my golden rules of world building. And one of those rules is everything affects everything. Everything that you include in your world building affects things around it. Rivers affect agriculture and trade. Mountains affect travel, that kind of stuff. I won't harp on that because that's not what I'm talking about. But that the nugget I want to share is to really focus on consequences. And I relate this back to D&D because I love D&D. And a lot of people think D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, is a game where you can do whatever you want, right? And that's the premise of it. You can say you want to do anything, and if it's possible, the DM lets you do it, incorporates it. That's not how I view D&D, though. I view it as a game of actions and consequences, and I tie that into my writing as well, because consequences are what make a story worth reading. They're the things that add tension. They're the things that create like character development, plot progression. Obstacles don't matter if there's no consequences tied to them. So I know, like Doug, what's the tip? Of course, there's consequences. You probably aren't focusing on your consequences enough. Or if you have a consequence, what is the long-reaching ramifications of it? How does it affect the character 5 chapters from that? Are you making the stakes high enough that the consequences are meaningful and can last that long? Because I always talk about this promise we make our reader that it's got to be worth reading. What we put in front of you has to be worth your time. And giving them a low stakes consequence all the time repeatedly is not fulfilling that promise. It does not make for engaging reading. It does not make for an engaging story. So just make sure that the things that you're torturing your character with, those consequences, when appropriate, are far reaching and they're impactful. And of course, tie them into their backstory, their big hurt, their lie, the goals that they're trying to achieve. All of that. David's love to play a D&D game under me. It sounds fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, my players could be more appreciative. Just kidding, they're fantastic. And JM Brown, that makes me very happy. Right, I hear the beeps. Apparently my voice will start cutting out. I will see everyone in 20 minutes. Happy writing. All right, everyone. That is our second sprint of the day finished. Let me pause my music so I can focus on what's happening in the chat here. That time around 652 words. Oops. Less than last time, but hey, that's just how it goes sometimes. I had to stop and think about a few things I wanted to include. And I see that Amanda is joining us on Facebook. That's awesome. Hello, Amanda. Most of our folks join us on YouTube, but it's nice to see the folks on Facebook joining us as well. Let me grab the third link. Again, you'll find that below me or at the top of that second sprint there. I will drop the link in the chat. And then, of course, I'm going to copy and paste all my words over so that they're all in the same place when I go copy them out afterwards. There's the new sprint. And there's a face. Okay. Let's see. SK got 417. That's awesome. David 679. Fantastic. Linda with 537. I love to see it. Elena 165. Awesome. Athena 374. And you got to go, but I'm glad you could join us and thank you for the company. Unwelly got 243. That's awesome. Erica 239. Fantastic. And NJ 421 more. Timelining is exhausting. NJ, what are you timelining for? Are you timelining just for having a timeline in your world, or are you timelining specific events that are referenced in your story? Because as much as I love world building and I love building timelines, it is exhausting, as you say, and we always try and do stuff that serves our story, right? So don't uh, drill yourself down just to make a timeline for the sake of making a timeline. If you have the key events in there, you can always add later and focus on some stuff that's a little more energizing. Let me take a sip of my water real quick. All right. There we go. Okay, we have 3 minutes until our next sprint starts. I mentioned this in the chat yesterday when I was on the other side of the screen for the first sprint, but the story that I'm writing now is in first person present tense. And the like everything I've written before is in third person past tense. And the switch between, oh, no, sorry, that's not true. Most of what I've written before, third person past. I have written first person before in urban fantasy, and first person is common in urban fantasy. I'd say it makes up the majority of stories, but not all of them by any means. But writing in present tense when you're used to writing in past tense is unbelievably hard. it's and it's something I have to keep conscious of, which slows down my writing and makes me stutter and stop and go back and fix things. Because we always encourage when you're doing sprints, you don't have to go back and fix things up. But this is when it comes to the tense of the story, it's something that can so easily slip through that if I do notice it, I want to correct it and I want to get my mind into a place where it's more reflexive, where it's more natural. Well, at the same time, I'm revising a 160,000 word story that's written in third person past tense. So, so who knows? Maybe I'm just torturing myself. NJ saying I'm timelining my sci-fi with all the characters' journeys intertwining both before my current work and after. Okay, okay. So I thought you were just timelining for world building. Yes, that's almost like reverse outlining. Sorry, I have a hiccup coming. And is great for spotting plot holes and consistency errors. That's awesome. Abby's joining us. Hi, Abby. Yeah, it is so much harder, and like SK says, is a difficult switch. And is it worth it? Who knows? But I picture this series of stories being in first person present. It's a more dynamic form of writing. Um, but like, I don't know. I question my sanity sometimes. NJ's wondering if you started the story at the wrong point, and that's why it isn't working. That's not an uncommon thing for people to be thinking. Though I guess I've been lucky enough to have that never happen to me. So I don't have necessarily any advice for you there beyond. I have 30 seconds here, focusing on the journeys of the character and how they mix in with the external conflict of the plot. Um, Write a to from or statement for your character. They go, or sorry, from to. They go from something to something else. Where do they start? That's generally where you want the story to start. But we can talk more about that maybe afterwards, maybe next week, because my beeper's beeping. It's time for writing, and I'll see you all in 20 minutes. All right, everyone. So ends our third and final sprint of the day. How did everyone do? I got 733 that time around for a grand total of 2,101. I think I'm going to be aiming for these urban fantasy books, like the 60, 70,000 word mark. Far cry from what I write when I'm doing dark fantasy, but I want them to be like shorter, punchier, more episodic, more monster of the week style stories. So I want to write them quickly. I want to get them out quickly. I want them to be read quickly, like devoured. And that's the vibe I'm going for with these ones. So we can talk more about that kind of strategy later on once I iron it out a little bit. But yeah, all right. David got 256. Excellent. I hope everyone else got some good words written. Let me just double check to see what we have on the calendar coming up. That'll be, I do believe, it's just following this. Let me double check. Yeah, in just under 14 minutes, Hank's going to be talking with Liv Constantine about writing twists and turns in suspense thrillers. We've had Liv Constantine on the show a number of times before, and it's always great listening to them. So I'm going to drop that link in the chat there. In addition to that, if you are a W Academy member, we have office hours tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. That's over in the Academy community at W Campus. So be sure to join us there. And then on Friday, Abby and Hank have the live Q&A session, weekly Q&A session for Indie Summer to take any questions you got, whether it be about websites that we talked about this week or other aspects of indie publishing and writing for that. That's always a blast. Always fun to tune into that. Let me just see what else has gone on in the chat here. Erica 272. It's slow, but you're making progress. Chapter names are coming to me for this project too, which is kind of fun. I've never named my chapters before, and I don't know if that's a conscious thing. I don't know if I've never been inspired to do it kind of thing. I'm not against it per se, but it's never clicked with me. So I'm glad that you're having fun with it, because that's pretty cool. NJ got around 400 every time. That's awesome. Linda got 191 plus 51 plus 29. If we do the quick math, that's 271, I think. So great job. Hanwelly got 225 that time around. That's excellent. Abby saying it took so long for my brain to click on in that one, and I realized about 6 minutes in that I forgot to turn on my writing music. That was the whole problem. Come on, Abby. I cannot write in silence. It is deafening to me. So I empathize with you there. And Linda's got 1,518 words grand total today. That's fantastic. All right, everyone. That is it for me today. Go ahead, check out that show with Liv Constantine and Hank happening in just over 10 minutes. Link in the chat there. I really appreciate you coming by, writing the words with me, keeping me accountable, keeping each other accountable, making more progress towards your goal. And that's it for me today. I will see you next week on Wednesday for more writing sprints. Bye for now.